So we kick off this episode with some good old-fashioned simulation, and well, in this simulation we find out going into Christmas that actually doing pretty well. 5-game winning streak at this point, 5th seed in the Western Conference, 18-11 on the season. I don't really have much complaints here, alright? I mean, solid, especially for a team with a lack of depth. Terrence Ferguson in the starting lineup, so on and so forth. And would you ever guess this? Dennis Schroeder is the leading scorer of this team. Look, I literally wouldn't expect anybody in the world to guess this. 20.7 points per game on the season for him, and really solid overall outings from the rest of our starting lineup when it comes to Danilo Gallinari, Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Steven Adams, aside from Terrence Ferguson, who's kind of having a, so-and-so season because he's young and inefficient. But aside from that, I need some more questions answered, alright? Because we're in a weird position, and I wanted to hop into a game with the Brooklyn Nets here just to try to get some confirmation on a few things, whether that's good or bad for some player situations with the team. And well, I got the confirmations, all right, from exactly who I need to get him for. Now, first of all, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, don't mind that, whatever the hell that was from Steven Adams missing a layup off the backboard, but Shai solidified himself. Well, we already knew this, but he just kind of further solidified himself as, he's going to be the number 1 or number 2 guy on the team for the long haul, all right? Whether we draft somebody that's better than him in the future, in this offseason, something like that, he's going to be here, and he's going to be a number 1, number 2, maybe number 3 guy as a stretch in the future, all right? Ideally, I think he can be one of those guys and help us win a championship. Terrence Ferguson, just to mention him real quick, like I said, a little bit like here and there in the season, he's just kind of like shooting mid-30s in the field goal percentage. He's shooting mid-30s in threes as well, which is promising. Now, Dennis Schroeder, is he really a 20-point per game scorer when we're actually playing the games? Hell no, alright? I shot a lot with him in this game trying to see if he could be that. But all in all, just kind of trying out his whole repertoire, it just doesn't work out. He's not a three-point shooter, mid-range shooter, really anything. He's just kind of good all around. He's solid, he's nothing crazy. Right here, he's going to get blocked by Jared Allen. But I have no plans to trade him because he's on a 2-year deal, and he has solid value regardless of what year of his contract he's in for a team that's trying to do something. And, a lot of teams are scarce on point guards, all right? Now, Chris Paul, speaking of point guards, he's just such a tough situation with him because he's still pretty valuable, to be honest with you. He's a very good player when we're out there on the court. When it comes to his stats in the simulation and on the court, they don't vary really. He still gives us a lot of good playmaking and good scoring in the games and off the games in the simulations, all right? And as you saw that move right there, that was beautiful. A little between the legs spin move to the basket. I don't know what the hell that was, but whatever, you get the point. Chris Paul, the thing is though, we gotta still look at trades because this is the peak of his value right now. He's 34 years old. He's only getting older and looking at the end of his career. And, we're gonna look at trades regardless. Now, the main guy I want to talk about is Danilo Gallinari. Now, Gallinari, yikes, man. Now, it's not yikes in the sense that, he's horrible or something, but he's just not up to par with what we need in order to really be a legitimate team this season. And the thing is, he's only on a 1-year deal. So we might as well try and get something out of him right now, which then again, the season's winding down already, so his value is already a little bit more depleted than it maybe was at the beginning. But as of right now, and also he's a little bit on the older side as well, so we don't expect a lot from him anyways. But Danilo in this game specifically, and in a lot of these games, I kind of try to get him involved in the offense off the bench. Not that he plays off the bench, but with the bench unit, because, I need more of his production there off the bench with our really weak bench in comparison to having him on the floor with Chris Paul and Shai all the time, who could already score buckets, all right? By the way, Darius Bazley, he's one of those guys off the bench that I'm actually really happy about because he's just so solid, all right? He can play both the 3 and the 4, but all in all, we're just not really ready for prime time right now. It's just simple as that. We don't have the type of assets off the bench to the point where I'm confident in this team going into the playoffs. I don't care what seed we are or what the 2K simulation says. This team, we got to play some sort of chess and not checkers, all right? I thought I was going to screw up that saying. I've been thinking about that since 3 minutes before I recorded this. Anyways, we got to play some chess, all right? Because all in all, this team right now, it's just not good enough to the point where, we can go into the playoffs confidently and think that we're going to make it anywhere close to out of the first round because of the depth. Really, that's really it. And Danilo Gallinari, like I said, he's not cutting it in terms of trying to help us out on that end. In this game, Danilo shot 3 for 14 and Shai had 29 points. That's all you need to know, all right? Aside from that, and I already told you Dennis Schroeder shot 4 for 18. But where we need to go now is looking at trades. And well, the Detroit Pistons are a team that really intrigue me because it's the Pistons. They're not really loaded in any type of way, and they're doing really good. So a way to beef up this team and pull kind of what the Sixers did last year with Tobias Harris, where they traded for Harris mid-season on his contract year and wanted to make their team better in the short run kinda, and now have him on a max contract, which won't happen with Danilo, by the way, for the Pistons, is look at potentially trading Danilo to the Pistons for Tony Snell and Langston Galloway just for contract reasons, and a future first-round pick from Detroit. Just get something out of this, because I have no plans to re-sign Danilo because he doesn't really fit our mold of our team right now in terms of the age thing. Now, it was pretty inevitable that we would end up coming back to these Miami trade talks that this team did have prior to the season with the Heat when it comes to Chris Paul. And well, Miami is 2 games back of the Eastern Conference playoffs right now, but that's only 2 games back. And I think if they get Chris Paul, who has been playing as solid as he has been playing this season, it's pretty much a guarantee they'll make it, all right, because their point guard depth is just not there. And well, I feel like rather than just doing something like this where we get the Goran, James Johnson expiring contracts, I feel like with Chris Paul, how he's been playing, we can get some more out of this, all right? And well, Tyler Herro is a guy that's pretty interesting because he's a young 13th pick for the Heat just in his rookie season right now, and Miami hasn't really been utilizing him. He hasn't played at all. He's played in 1 game. In real life, he's expected to play a boatload of minutes, but in the game, he's not playing at all. So I feel like we can try and finesse them into giving us Tyler Herro. Not to say, you know what I mean, in a realistic way. I'm not going to be an idiot here and try to finesse this and making this an unrealistic series, but we can also take back Kelly Olynyk instead of James Johnson, because Johnson is an expiring deal and Kelly Olynyk has a player option which he can accept, and that'll be, you know, more of a burden on Miami. So we take that off of them. We're also giving them a first-round pick in this deal. The pick is from Denver for this year, which should be in the high 20s, along with Diallo and Justin Patton, 2 solid young players, not nearly to the caliber or potential of Tyler Herro, but they're not utilizing Herro, and Chris Paul would help them do exactly what they set themselves up to do, which was make the playoffs with a guy like Jimmy Butler, who they just gave a max deal to. So that's really my standpoint on that in terms of the realism of the trade. And well, lastly, the Minnesota talks I hinted at in the last video, it just doesn't really make sense in comparison to Miami talks, because Gorgie Jang's contract is bad, Chris Paul's contract is bad, so we would get a bad contract, they get a bad contract. They're also a little bit worse than us in the Western Conference. They're right outside of the playoff picture right now. And Minnesota, you know, they still have a couple more years before they're really pressured to do anything. When Miami's got a guy like Jimmy Butler who's 30 years old, and, you know, you get the point there, all right? Simply enough, just let me know what you think about all these possibilities. All right, I'm out. Cut.